Costa Rica, actually. And you guys have been, honestly, like EOS Costa Rica, if you don't know about them, they've actually been doing some pretty amazing things for a really long time. So I'm actually really excited to have you on the show. And of course, this is our third episode of a Pomelo Pitch Deck. So we're going to be mostly focused on this new idea that you guys are going to build out with the funding that you get from Pomelo based on EOS rate. But just to give us a rundown first, maybe, Edgar, who are you? Who is EOS Costa Rica, and why should people, pay attention to all the great things that you guys have been doing? Because there has been a lot, actually.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for having us on today, Jimmy. And I'm Edgar Fernandez. I'm co-founder of EOS Costa Rica. We're part of a larger tech company called Sistemas Edenia that's been around in tech in Costa Rica for the last 30 years, building out internet infrastructure since beginning of the 90s into 2000s. We have a co-location dedicated servers out of a data center in a government building in San Jose, Costa Rica. We started experimenting with blockchain and running infrastructure for blockchains around 2013, 2014, and basically running anything that would pay us to validate networks. After 7 years in that, we had been following Dan Larimer's work and delegated proof of stake. And we were there at the beginning of the genesis of EOS.io and EOS mainnet, and been a block producer ever since. We quickly realized that not only can we run infrastructure, but also learn how to develop applications and real world solutions, as well as bring adoption and education around blockchain generally in Latin America and specifically in Costa Rica. So we're a group around 20 developers now, after 3 years, 3.5 years, almost 4 now, working in EOS.io. And we've done a lot in different areas, right? We're a business at heart. We're a startup at heart. So, we always have been on the lookout for clients and client work. We worked with large enterprise clients implementing blockchain and EOS.io specifically, but also a lot of open source projects. And knowing that this is a long haul, a marathon, if you will, of, blockchain still in its first innings, and just staying true to who we are and our values, and open source has been a big part of that. So glad to see so much momentum around Pomelo grants, funding in general around the ecosystem, because we're one of the teams that have kind of made it through that dip, made it through some crypto winners, and now I think really going to be able to take off with a lot of community support. So happy to be here and talk about some of the more recent stuff we've been working on.
Some crypto winners. I mean, in EOS, I think there was one day of spring and the rest was winter. I mean, until some of this stuff came along. I mean, yeah, and we've been, working really hard to promote, EOS and the benefits of EOS. And there's been some really heated discussions recently, coming off the back of some EOS Network Foundation announcements, this whole thing with Brock Pierce, Block One, are they still here? Are they still doing things? But despite all of that, one thing that we can say for sure, I think unanimously, is it's the things that the block producers have been doing day in and day out from the early beginnings that really kept the EOS network alive. Now, of course, there's some, other chains that are running on the EOS.io software, and they're doing their own thing. And some of them, are doing better than, others. And some of them could potentially even flip EOS at some point. If you're looking at recent movements with Wax, like the things that are happening in Telos with EVM. You've also got Ultra. They're doing some amazing things over there with the gaming industry. So I'm assuming that you guys are running on multiple chains, not just EOS.
We've running infrastructure on other chains, EOS.io chains, and building software. Really, the way we view it is networks are the new corporation. Networks are the new employers, right? I mean, whether that's a DAO or worker proposal system, or through inflation, like a block producer, right? We view all of them as clients, including EOS mainnet, including EOS community members that hire us to build stuff, or open source tools. So we just view them as clients, and that's what we treat them like, right? With accountability, transparency, clear pricing, clear delivery, and rising tides raise all boats. I think it's great for EOS mainnet when you have enterprise use cases in a private version of EOS.io. I think it's great when you have spinoffs and new technologies, new features that are being built on others, because at the end of the day, it's going to be very easy to transition into EOS mainnet. So for us, it's about building bridges and not making separations. I think everyone is going to be benefited by the growth of EOS.io based implementations, and hopefully, if the value proposition for EOS mainnet's there, then we have nothing to worry about, right? As being an EOS mainnet block producer or developer or community member, right? If your value proposition is strong, then welcome the competition and welcome sister chains and forks that really bring awareness to the technology in general.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm about to get myself into trouble here, so just pay attention. You'll notice my name down there. It says Jimmy D at Gener EOS. Oops, and the Gener EOS part is gone because this is my personal viewpoints. They do not reflect the viewpoints of Gener EOS. I just want to make that really clear. But I think what you guys are doing with this EOS rate is really neat. We'll dive into the details a little bit later. But basically what it is it's going to be a tool, I guess, or platform for the general community to be able to go in and rate various block producers on what they're worth, what they're doing, what they're bringing to the ecosystem and infrastructure and things like that. And I think that's actually really sorely needed, right? I get it. I get Binance is huge. I get that, they're one of the biggest exchanges in the world. I get that they're a really important player. But realistically speaking, why do they have so many votes when it doesn't really seem like they're contributing anything to the ecosystem? Again, my personal opinion, not the opinion of Gener EOS or any of the other block producers out there, right? I'm not saying that we should boot them, but there's a lot of block producers in the early days that were, working really hard that actually ended up being like, it's better for the ecosystem in the end, but ended up being relegated as block producers on other chains just because they couldn't compete with some of these exchanges and things like that. So I guess I have two questions for you. Question number one is, before we dive in, this block producer, this EOS rate, is this intended for the EOS mainnet, or is this intended for all of the chains to start?
Right now, it's intended and used for EOS mainnet. Now it's open source software, so we can't control a community member, someone who wants to fork that and plug that into with anything else. But it's built for EOS mainnet and for rating block producers and analyzing proxies on the EOS mainnet currently.
Okay, great. And so I'm going to pull up the proposal. Now, do you want to maybe go through why you guys believe? Because I gave you my opinion, but my opinion doesn't really matter on this. I'm not the one building it. I can put Gener EOS's name back on my name. I might do that. But yeah, I think a lot of people will see value in this. But why did you guys decide to build this? Why did you guys feel like this was necessary? Why do you think that this is an enhancement to the ecosystem as a whole?
Right. Well, I think you mentioned it a little bit, or at least alluded to it, right? Voting and voting by stake, right? Core to delegated proof of stake is one way to measure the will of the people, right? If you want to phrase it that way. It's not the only one, right? By nature, it's inherent that the more tokens you have, the more weighting you have, right? In the DPoS consensus mechanism. We thought that it would be interesting to compare what one rating would be versus votes. We didn't think necessarily that the voting table was reflective of the general opinion of token holders, whether small, big, or medium-sized, on their custodians of the network, the block producers. And we wanted to also dissect what category, right? So we started EOS Rate because we didn't think that voting was necessarily the only representation of the sentiment in this marketplace. Because being a block producer and getting elected as a block producer, it's a marketplace. It's a marketplace of ideas, and it's a marketplace that you're putting your dollar, your EOS, right, your money as your vote, as your voice in a way. And we thought, well, why not compare this with the ratings of it, right? One account, one rating, and using the wisdom of the crowds to figure out what are the block producers and how does that compare to their ranking and votes. So what if there's a block producer that's rated, we do from 1 to 10, so rated above a 6 or 7, but is not even close to being in a paid position? And how about the ones that are in the top 21 being rated by their same, community members or users, very, very low, very, very poorly? Clearly, there's a disconnect between the interests of token holders and what the sentiment of token holders are. Some people are voting with their wallet, right? Whether that's a reward proxy or anything else, and that's completely valid. And other people are expressing their opinion by way of rating. Now, that's how it started, really as a governance tool, as a way, another metric. There should be many metrics, right? Some of them intangible metrics, right? It's not all qualitative, it's not all quantitative. This is one more way that we can try and represent the wisdom of the crowd of what is the best custodian of the network or block producer. And that's why we started EOS Rate. But it doesn't really end there. And I'll get more specific into the proposal that you're showing on screen today, but rating is a big business. Rating is huge business. I mean, talk about Yelp, Google reviews, TripAdvisor, Rotten Tomatoes, Netflix. All these ratings we're giving away for free. This is just information that users are giving away for free, right? I mean, what hotel's the best, what restaurant's the best, what store has the best customer service, what movie to watch, what content to watch. This is all ratings. This is all huge business. And we would love nothing more than this EOS Rate to start as a governance tool because, well, who's going to build on a chain that is not transparent and not necessarily being run by the best possible custodians of the network? None. So we think that fundamentally we need to work on governance first, but then later we can rate proxies, we can rate Pomelo grants, we can rate Eden delegates, we can rate dApps, we can rate wallets, we can rate exchanges, and start doing this all on chain, which one provides transparency and also some activity on EOS mainnet, right? Everyone's tracking dApp radar or Blocktivity or whatever metric you want. We want users, we want transactions. Rating is popular, rating is important, rating is valuable, right? So let's bring that on EOS mainnet. And two, it can be profitable, right? Everyone's talking about play to earn. Well, how about rate to earn, right? Why not pay to rate? Right? Not we do that all the time and we do it for free. Now, if I want to see the ratings of a restaurant, hey, if I'm also a rater, maybe I can use some of my rate tokens to unlock premium VIP ratings. If I'm a user of that information and it's valuable to me, well, then I should be paying in a closed tokenomics kind of manner the person who's providing that value, right? The person who's rating, the person that went to the restaurant, saw the movie or whatever, and decided to do it. So eventually what we want to do with the Pomelo grant is not only better our user experience, better our front end, bring more features and quicker and just more secure, but also provide an incentive. And that's whether it's an airdrop of a rate token. I don't want to get too into specifics, but an incentive for you to rate. So usually we go there because you want EOS mainnet to be, stronger and you want to voice your opinion around block producers. But how about if we incentivize people to be those expert raters, right? And with those rate tokens, they might be able to do other things, right? And provide some value, unlock ratings for other things. And eventually what we're going to get is to decentralize Yelp, if you will, with an incentive to do so, right? So we can have raters all over the world checking wallets, exchanges, content, this same live stream right now. Well, why not rate it and get paid for doing so others can maybe pay attention or skip to the next one, right? But that's the point, right? That's what blockchain allows, and that's what we're doing with it. It's very early on, right? If you look at our Pomelo grant, solidifying it, making it faster, easier, simpler, and better looking. What's the next step after that? Providing more use cases. Maybe we'll start rating Pomelo grants themselves on chain. Then we start doing it into a token sale or a token contract where we're providing a rate token for every rate that you have, possibly airdropped with users that have already done so, right? If you've already been a user providing value to this ecosystem by rating, well, hell, you should be receiving some of the tokens, right? A lot to do there, a lot in that roadmap, but eventually that's where we're headed to.
Sorry about that. I had it on mute. Now, so like that's kind of the overview. I want to like dive into details a little bit more, because I think that this is a really interesting concept. And my co-host over on the Uplifters channel, Corey, he's big on saying that we live in an attention economy, and like up until now, we haven't really been able to award people for their attention, right? And you look at these. Netflix specials that are coming out about, evil technology and it being bad and all of this stuff. Well, I mean, it's difficult for me actually, because with the power of blockchain gaming, which you talked about earlier, it's kind of, it morphs into something bigger, right? Like I can make $30 playing a game. I mean, in Japan or in, Canada or America or Australia, I mean, that's not a livable salary for me, $30 a week. However, if I'm in El Salvador or I'm in some backwater town in Africa or Southeast Asia, like $30 that's more than I might make like out there in the real world, right? So I think this is the appeal to play to earn. Now, what I want to ask you, because this kind of came up with the whole Pomelo thing that I did an interview with Daniel Keys a couple days ago. And we were talking about, people trying to game the system, right? And so, like, if you have all of these accounts that are like flooding the Pomelo system and they're trying to buy off their friends and stuff like that and take more than their share of the funding, then this becomes really problematic, right? And everywhere we go in the blockchain space, we see this all the time, right? Like, I won't be surprised if by the end of this, series, somebody pops into the comments and asks me if I want to pay them for more views. Like, no, I don't want to pay you for more views. I want, organic people who are here who are interested in the system. So my question is, right, if you're looking at some of these rate platforms that happen out there in the real world when it comes to restaurants, when it comes to businesses and things like that, right? These are 100% focused on people's opinions, right? And people's opinions, as we know, unfortunately, they could be bought and they could be swayed, right? And so what we have right now in the system is, like you kind of mentioned, we have a lot of pull by block producers that might not be thinking in terms of what's best for the token holders. They're thinking in terms of what's best for the business, which, I mean, we need that too, right? But if we go full heavy into EOS rate and everyone is just voting for the block producers that they feel are doing a good job, what's to prevent an what's to prevent an overstep whereby certain block producers are paying users to go in and rate them? What's the counterbalance there? Because I can guarantee you that you guys have thought of this. So what's the counterbalance there to make sure that it's just not totally focused on, community opinion, and it is actually focused on, matching that with the work and the real-time things that these block producers are doing themselves on the ground, boots running.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, spam, civil attacks, bots was all in the conversation around EOS rate, especially if you're going to be providing incentives to do so. And we've thought about this. It's one rating per account, right? So someone that wanted to game the system wouldn't just have to buy one person to do multiple ratings. It's just one rating per account. They would have to create massive amounts of accounts to go in there and rate. Number two, we put in similar to Rex, where you have to vote for at least 21 block producers in order to rate. So it kind of prevents spam in the sense that, an account has to go and do another action before they actually do that. So they have to at least either proxy their vote or voted for 21. That's one control, right? Number three, the account that does the rating must pay for the RAM to save that on state. That's done on purpose. It's not a bug. It's not something that's supposed to go against the user experience. It's in a way to prevent massive amounts of rating, because that person it's going to be expensive if they do so, right? We've lowered that RAM cost for KYC'd accounts. KYC'd by, for example, the Eden community. If you're an Eden member already, you're not paying the same RAM that you are, because we're trusting that you're not there to civil attack. You're not a bot. You've been KYC'd as human, verified as human, and therefore that control can be relaxed. But there are many others, right? There's many others, and it's an open source project. So if you've got some ideas on how to reduce spam or reduce corruption or rate buying, we've thought of those, but I'm sure there's some other ones as well, right? So far, we view that as a good problem. We need engagement. We need attention. We need funding. We need to build this and actually make it right. If it's abused, it means it's relevant. If it's abused, it means people are paying attention. And to be honest, in a beginning stage like this, that's a good problem to have, because it's going to force us to find better and better solutions. So we'll welcome the guys to come and try and say, hey, this is how you abuse EOS rate, and it's a shit tool. Excuse my language, but like, fine,
No,
great.
I'm totally stealing that, because that's a really good perspective. Sometimes we get our heads down in the space and we're just like, damn it, more people trying to game the system. But you're completely right. If people are trying to game the system, they're trying to do it because it's profitable, because it's relevant, because it matters. And that's a really good way to look at it. It's the constant fight against bots, or the constant fight against attacks. But I mean, if you're building something of value, if you're creating it, then that's going to be awesome.
100%. The worst thing is to be ignored and irrelevant, and we don't want to do that.
So on the Pomelo proposal, you can follow that over at the bottom. There's a link here to EOS rate and what's already up and running, and basically this platform as it exists today has been primarily funded by EOS Costa Rica, and a few select other people have kind of chipped in and helped, but for the most part, it's been funded by EOS Costa Rica. And the whole point of this Pomelo, proposal that you guys have up and running is to move it to the next phase, to be able to get the funding, to be able to, amp it up, level it up, and make it become a reality. I'd also like to take a moment, because I think let's watch this, because I think may as well. It's 52 seconds, and we got time. So let's.
More than 20 million
No.
use Grammarly.
That's not what you're looking for, but yeah.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Edgar, co-founder of EOS Costa Rica. Over the past few months, we've noticed a problem EOS token holders must face when comparing EOS block producers. There's virtually no way to do this apart from looking at voting charts. However, when reviewing voting patterns, we came across the question, is voter sentiment truly reflected in voting patterns?
Along with a group of Costa Rican techies, we created an open source decentralized app that allows EOS token holders to rate block producers in just a few clicks. Token holders must sign using their EOS wallet to submit their rating, making the process totally transparent. This means that one account equals one rating submission. The ratings are then securely stored in the EOS blockchain, meaning they can't be changed unless they're updated by the voter.
Sounds simple, right? The ratings are based on 5 distinct categories: transparency, infrastructure, trustiness, community, and development. These are graded on a scale from 1 to 10. The ratings are then displayed on radiographs that are easy to read and compare.
EOS Rate is a community-driven tool that collects all these ratings to create block producer profiles using a unique radio component we call Leaf to help you visually compare the most relevant qualitative attributes of block producers, making it easier for any token holder to make an informed vote.
If you are an EOS token holder, I encourage you to raise your voice, rate block producers using your EOS wallet, and find the block producer that best represents you. Follow us for more updates and start rating.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. I love watching me speak. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it's
question my mustache choice every day. So thank you.
It's fun for me too, because like I used to watch all my episodes back, but I just don't have time anymore. But yeah, so basically, no, I like it, and like it was just an easier way to actually explain everything that you have here on this proposal. So there's a breakdown of like UI, UX, smart contract, front end, back end, marketing, infrastructure development of how these funds from the Pomelo grants will be used. But I also wanted to touch on one other thing that I kind of think is important. So what you guys have up and running now is you have actually two kind of sides to this. You have rates by Eden members and by non-Eden members. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, in terms of one account, one verification, like Eden, is there an identity layer here, or does it matter? Like if I have 3 different accounts and I want to go in and I want to do like, 3 different ratings, that's okay. Is that always kind of going to be that way? Or are you guys planning on matching that to an identity? Because I think it's a really difficult situation, right? Because we have a lot of people in the EOS community who have multiple accounts just for security reasons, right? Yeah. So if you attach that identity to multiple accounts, then does that rate them from all of the accounts, or is it going to be an account by account basis, which actually gives you more leeway to rate more block producers if you think more are doing well? I'm just kind of curious, and maybe you don't even have an answer for it, but we're in that kind of touchy phase right now with EOS, where we're trying to decide, what should hold more weight. Should it be like things like Eden, where everyone is a verifiable, identifiable, person, or should it be more, old school blockchain thinking, where it's just the account that matters and not the person behind it?
Right. Well, it's a little bit of both, right? Because by separating Eden accounts and Eden ratings from every other one, we're kind of saying these do have an identity layer, right? They're verifiable human, and you can only have one account that's verified Eden, right? You can't have 2 Eden accounts for the same person. You can have multiple EOS mainnet accounts, no problem. You can vote with those, but those are going to be in a different pool. And the reason why we did this is, one, the Eden community came to us and said, hey, we will contribute to this project if you add this level of this feature. One, because now it allows us specifically to have an Eden proxy that's based on the ratings of Eden members. And it was actually a really cool tool because it allowed us to build a way to check the Eden members table and then verify that to the app. So the app kind of changes because you have a verified identity. Now that might change, with WebAuth or with decentralized ID. That would be even better, right? It's kind of already integrating that layer system, but we didn't want to be exclusive either, right? We want to make sure that anybody that wants to rate can rate. And currently, right now, if you're willing to pay the RAM and the cost to create accounts and want to continue to rate, you're only going to be able to rate once, right? You can update a rating, but you can't rate with more weighting with one account. You can just create more accounts and then rate, but with the same weighting each time. So it's definitely not going to be perfect, but it's a very motivated person, right? The good thing, it's also on chain, right? So if we see that there's massive amounts of accounts that are being built or created in milliseconds and all voting 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 for, Acme BP, well, we're going to be able to look at that, and hopefully we'll build a system, if we have the funding and time and resources and willingness behind it, to maybe discard those and say, well, these are clearly spam accounts or accounts that are trying to game the system, and we'll do maybe a mean, right, or median or something like that to kind of get rid of outliers. But it's all an experiment. The great thing is this is on chain, and from what I have seen in the blockchain ecosystem, and please, I'm sure your listeners and the people in the comment section will correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see an on-chain rating system anywhere on blockchain and on any chain. And it's extremely transparent. You said it yourself, right? How many, people are paid to do ratings, to make reviews
Right.
that are favorable. And doing it on chain allows you to then build some forensics around, this looks like it's a paid review, right? We could have flags attached to what looks like to be a paid review. Currently in a centralized system, that's impossible.
Right. And I like it too. We did a crypto writer roundtable episode last week where we talked about, EOS funding and, the state of EOS now. And we began that roundtable actually on the recommendation of one of the panelists. for everyone to basically state their affiliations, right? Like what funding arms are you directly affiliated with, so that when people are listening to this podcast back later, they know exactly, now that's not to say that like every person is going to shill like, without, thought of consequence, but like they know exactly where you're coming from. And I think this is a really good point that you guys are building, right? Like, and like you said, it's a starting point, and building these things, as a block producer, it's not easy because there's so many things that you want to do with infrastructure and stuff like that. But allowing to get this funding opens the door to a whole new kind of, system that could potentially be incorporated with this sort of open source software. Like just to go back to like the outside, I'm walking down the restaurant, I look at Yelp, I see the review, and I can see that there's like, a whole bunch of stars that are great, but then like one star that's kind of okay. But if I have the ability to look into that account and verify that, hey, wait a minute, this is like one of the top chefs in the city who's giving it an okay rating versus all of these, plebs that are out there that are rating it on different things, right? Like you can potentially see where something like this could be valuable, because you could see, what people or what accounts are rating these block producers on what criteria, right? Because with blockchain especially, there's so many different people that are interested in so many different things, whether it be gaming, whether it be infrastructure, whether it be like communities, whether it be, governance, all of these different things. And I can totally see like just getting enough funding to get this up off of the ground with like a new UI and get it out there so that people are actually using it, so that people know about it, is just going to be a game changer. In my personal humble opinion, I think what you guys are building with this is very necessary, very needed, not only in the EOS space or the EOS IO space, but I'm telling you, I just wish that you would expand to Ethereum, because I would love to go and rate some of those goddamn, be nice, James. I would love to go and rate some of these people who are being nefarious. I do honestly believe that, right? Like when you can front run other people's transactions. And I mean, I would just love to see Ethereum 2.0 as a disclaimer, hurry up and get here so that we can get to that proof of stake, so that I can, stop wasting my time, harping on them for things that we've already solved over here in the EOS space. But like something like that, could, like you said, potentially go across a number of different blockchains, a number of different spaces. So right. I'm really excited for that. And I can honestly see this being the first of many proposals that you guys do with this, depending upon how the development goes through this first round of Pomelo. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, just to make something clear, EOS Rate already works. It's a working product, right? It's not a POC. It's not a white paper. It's been working since 2.5 years already, right? We have over 533 different ratings, unique ratings. And getting back to the abuse kind of part, if someone was being paid to rate, it's very likely they would just rate 10, 10, 10, 10 for the person that's going to rate them. And you could see that clearly, right? It's very unlikely that they're going to pay the RAM to rate other block producers, maybe a 5 or 6 or 7 or an 8, right? Unless they're trying to hide their tracks or something. But if it's a spam or a script that's trying to do this and that's being paid and incentivized to do it, it's very likely they come in, they give whatever, incentive block producer 10, 10, 10, and then that's it. But what we intend to do is it's not getting this off the ground. This is already off the ground. What we want to do is get to a point where it's fast, easier to use, and more secure, so we can start adding new features. And before, we're kind of product before white paper. We're product before token sale. So we want a really nice product that's secure, that's working, that's got feedback, and that's gone through several different iterations and has a market fit before we start airdropping tokens, right? And before we start out there and really trying to scale this. So this is what this proposal is really about, is taking it from an MVP stage where we are right now with real users, with real transaction that already works, to, hey, an MVP 2, which is going to increase, hopefully, 10 times the amounts of ratings that we've had from 10 times more users, and really proving that this is something that we can then scale to rating dApps, rating wallets, rating exchanges, rating content providers, and eventually maybe rating your Airbnb, right? Nice. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, so head on over. I just put it in the comments, the Pomelo Grants EOS rate. You can read the little synopsis that comes along with the proposal. Very short, very sweet. And also definitely be sure to go down here to the About Us section and click on this little button that says EOS rate. That will take you to the up and working, already operational site that, you can start to rate block producers. Now, right now, there's two things that you can do. Support them through the Pomelo funding, quadratic grants application that they have there, and also go and use the system as it exists today. You can see the sign in button here and go and rate your favorite BPs, whoever they may be, hopefully two of the ones that are represented on this screen. But thank you so much, Edgar, for joining us. And good luck with the rest of the funding. And I hope to see you in the space personally, here, there, and everywhere in the coming months, because I think this space, this EOS space especially, that we're in, is going to get really exciting really fast, especially when these grants conclude and the second part of this funding goes out, and all of these teams actually have the capital to be able to build things that they're working on or have been working on, as in your case, for a while. I'm super excited. So thanks once again.
Hey, thank you very much for having me, and I'll be back as many times as you invite me. So thanks again.
Great, thanks, and we'll see you guys all on the next episode of Pomelo Pitch Deck, which will probably be happening, early next week, sometime. Take care until then.